Welcome to Leadership Rediscovered. I'm your host, Laura Siebold, and today I am very excited to be joined by my dear friend, Lisa Holt. Lisa Holt is the franchise owner of 2 Chick-fil-A restaurants in Morgantown, West Virginia. She is the chair of the Chestnut Mountain Ranch Foundation Board and has been involved with the ranch since 2006. Lisa is married to Craig Holt and has a 12-year-old son named Jacob. She is a native of Bridgeport, West Virginia, and graduated from Bridgeport High School. Lisa has 2 Bachelor of Science degrees, one in business management and the other in marketing, both from Fairmont State University. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Thank you for being here. I've been very much anticipating this conversation, and I know you don't like the spotlight, so I very much appreciate many people who, especially if they're in this area, they know Chick-fil-A. They don't know the face behind the Chick-fil-A here. So
they know the name. A lot of people know my name.
Yeah, but so thank you for doing this. Yeah. But you do have such an interesting story, and you're really leading a large team of people. So I would just love to start out by hearing your leadership journey, your career journey, and how you even got into this whole Chick-fil-A business.
All right. Well, it started in 1990 when my parents made me get a job. 16-year-old, you're sitting at home and said, I think it's time for you to go to work.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, I'd never really even heard of Chick-fil-A. Mom said, Chick-fil-A is hiring at the mall. I'm like,
this is like
what's Chick-fil-A?
1990.
We were primarily in malls.
Yes.
There were few. There wasn't freestanders out there yet, but we were primarily in malls.
Yeah, ours was across from the American Eagle.
Yeah, and I said, "What? You want me to get a job at Chick-fil-A?" And my mom happened to know someone that knew the owner there, and I can remember going there for my interview and got the call, and I was hired. So I worked part-time. From 1990 to, I guess, when I started going to college at Fairmont in 1991, and I wanted to be a nurse. So I was working through college.
Yeah.
Because if I wanted a car, I had to buy it. So it was, I worked, and then I made my college schedule around what I knew I needed to make that. I mean, I had to work to make my car payment. So my college schedule went around what I knew I had to work to make that payment. Mm-hmm. In 1993, the owner that was there at the time, she made me a team leader.
Okay.
And she took me under her wing. Her name was Shelley Liberto, and kind of taught me the ropes of the business. The ropes of the business then were a lot different than they are now, but she took a different franchise in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. And Chick-fil-A needed someone to run the store, not be the franchisee. I was called a temporary operator at the time. So from January 1994 until January 1st of 1995, I was the temporary operator. But in that time, in October, someone from the corporate office came and said, "Hey, would you like to be the operator of the store? And I'm going to school to be a nurse." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Would you like to be the operator of this store?" And I'm like, "I'm 21 years old." Yeah. And so I went home and had a discussion with my parents. I'm like, why not try it? I mean, why not try it? Now let me say this. It was a low volume mall store. It wasn't making any money. They gave me a base salary of $30,000 a year.
Wow.
I was 21 years old living at home. I was
this is high rolling.
This is high. It was big money. And I'm like, okay. And so I agreed. I went to training January 1st of 1995. Okay. But in the meantime, I had to come up with my franchise fee.
Now, I was going to say, because when you're an operator, this is you are owning a
I'm
business.
An independent. Yeah. And so I went to the bank and they were like, "We need 5 years of tax returns." I said, "I don't have 5 years of tax returns. I'm not old enough to have 500 or 5 years of tax returns." Yeah. And they said, "Okay, we can't give you the loan." So I went back to Chick-fil-A and I was like, "I'm having problems getting this loan." And the last thing they wanted me to do was ask my parents for help. So I financed my franchise fee through Chick-fil-A Incorporated.
Oh, fascinating.
Yes. Huh. And made them a monthly payment like you would the bank until the franchise fee was paid off.
Wow.
Unheard of in this day and age.
Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine
being so young,
that.
They came back to me and said, "You're an independent business owner and we don't want you to have to ask your parents we will help you with this.
But yeah, I was curious about that. The why behind why they didn't want you to ask your parents.
Right.
That's
They didn't
really
want
interesting.
because they wanted me to be my independent business owner. I was
Wow.
taking a leap of faith, I guess.
Oh,
So
my goodness.
I changed my major and I was not going to be a nurse anymore. I was going to be a business owner. So I still didn't have my college degree. I still had, this was 1995. So I had 2 years left. But I had to take a semester off so that I could go to Chick-fil-A school. So I spent
Oh, my gosh.
2 weeks in Pittsburgh, and you're supposed to be, these are from candidates from outside, learning how to run a restaurant. Well,
Okay.
I had already been doing that.
Well, you've worked there.
Yes,
So
yes.
you know how it runs.
4 weeks in Atlanta.
Which is their headquarters,
then, yes,
right?
that's where our headquarters is. And at the time it was the home office. Now it's the support center.
Oh, okay.
And then 1 week in marketing with another operator, which I did in Pittsburgh. And then March 1st of 1995, Meadowbrook Mall was officially mine.
Wow.
And I guess I should have started it saying I started out in Meadowbrook Mall when I was 16.
I was wondering if that's
Yes.
okay.
Meadowbrook Mall in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And so I became the owner-operator in March of 1995.
Wow.
Low volume mall store, and the only way to I had to grow sales.
And do they teach you that at Chick-fil-A University or whatever it's called?
Yeah, they've changed the name so many times.
Okay.
They teach you a little bit, but you gotta think outside the box. Like back then, we sampled on the lease line. You had to get the product in people's mouth. Nobody knew what Chick-fil-A was. We passed out coupons on our lease lines.
Oh, my goodness.
You would never hear that today.
No.
Like to get people to come in.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't something that
No, but now that you say that, I'm thinking back to when I was a teenager going to the mall. And
there was someone out there with a toothpick.
There was someone with a toothpick. Yeah,
Toothpick
dressed in a cow costume.
We didn't do the cow. It was a chicken costume back then.
Oh, yeah.
The cows didn't come out until late 90s.
Okay. Yeah. Passing out samples.
Yeah,
to try to get people to come in.
And I think back now about that, and I'm like, but it still works. I mean, like, we sample new products in our dining rooms.
Huh.
New milkshake rolls out, limited time products, just to get people to try those.
I don't think I realized that. Yeah. That's really cool.
So
you had to bring in, if you wanted more than $30,000 a year.
Yeah, if I wanted
pay your people.
Exactly. We had to grow sales. So I was at Meadowbrook Mall for 10 years.
Okay.
And I learned about the freestanding opportunity that was going to be in Morgantown on Pattison.
Oh, okay.
Because I never thought in a million years there'd be anything in Bridgeport. Population wasn't there.
Yeah.
Until the FBI came.
Right.
But population wasn't there. And we'd bought our house, and it was in between my husband and I's, both places of employment. I'm like, let's do it. Let's try it. What do we got to lose?
Right.
So in September of 2005, I left Meadowbrook Mall, and I was unemployed for 2 months.
Wow.
And we opened the location on Pattison Drive, December 15th.
Oh, my goodness.
They projected it to open at 1.9 million, and we opened at 2.5.
Whoa. So
I knew that we'd hit, this was going to be an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
So, so Pattison's been there 2005, and then my second location came on the map. And I don't know if you know anything about Chick-fil-A, but they actually choose the locations. Tell
us about that, because I think people are so curious about how this works.
Like they actually find the land banks.
I'm sure they have people sitting behind computers
they do.
researching.
People visiting these locations, to determine if our size, if there's potential to grow there.
Support it.
Right. Because a lot of these locations you go in and they're wrapped, and they weren't, we didn't build stores to do the volumes that they're doing right now.
Wow.
So my second location hit the map in 2018, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen here? So I had to go through another interview process.
Really?
Yes. And it's pretty intense. To get a second opportunity, your first opportunity has to be performing well.
Well, but by this point, you probably had close to 20 years in?
I had, yes.
So it's not like you were just starting out. And
no.
You already had a store,
and
but they still put you
when
through that.
When they find additional locations, the current franchisee in that area gets first first dibs.
Okay, that's makes sense.
And that's just happened recently. And it's so that because you're sharing your customer base.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was like,
you don't want to build breed competition within Morgantown between two different Chick-fil-A's.
Right.
Okay,
and in some of the bigger cities, it works, but not in small town Morgantown or Bridgeport. It actually anywhere in West Virginia that doesn't work really well.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So we went through the interview process, and we're like, okay, because there's very few female multi-store owners.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, I'm one of the few.
Very cool.
Now it was a predominantly male career, and like when I went through training, there were very few female operators in 1995. That's changed, but female operators are still less than 20%.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Why? Do you have any guesses as to why that is?
No, and I don't know what the ratio is that applies.
Which is important.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It could
all
just
that.
be that something women aren't seeing that as an opportunity they're either interested in or they think about for themselves. So
exactly.
Maybe there's just a low application rate.
So we opened my second location April 9th of 2020, and right in the middle of the pandemic.
What was happening during that time?
Yes. So, but we had already started building the store. The store was
People
ready to
knew
go.
It was coming.
I mean, it was almost complete.
Yeah.
And the superintendent that was over the store came in and said to me, "You can't open." And I said, "What?
Oh my gosh.
The store's built. What do you mean I can't open?" He said, we can't get some of these permits. COVID has happened. They're shutting things down. We can't get a fire marshal out here. We can't get this. We can't get that. And I said, give me an hour. So I called a friend of mine in Charleston who owns a Chick-fil-A down there. And I said, hey, do you know anybody at the Capitol? I got a brand new building. I got all these, because I already had team members. They were working at Pattison.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, you were paying people to
I've got all this.
Run this store.
I need this store open.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I know someone. We had the fire marshal there the next day to get the store open.
That's amazing.
Now, it was very underwhelming because of COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
All we could do was open the drive-through window.
That's right, because you couldn't.
No dining room,
closed.
no marketing, nothing. So I was like, okay, this is fun.
How this goes.
Yeah. But it started out very slow, but word of mouth, people started realizing. So actually 2022 was the first year that both of my restaurants have been open at the same time for
a full year.
For a full year, because we remodeled Pattison in the summer of 2020. No, 2021. So Pattison was closed from June to August to expand the kitchen and create the double drive-through. Because if you remember during COVID, we had circus tents up. Yes. People out there taking orders.
Yes.
Because you had to be creative.
Yes. And I want to hear about that too, because why I think people are just so fascinated with so much about Chick-fil-A is, one of the things is the efficiency and the innovation that comes with, I remember when the vaccines were first getting ready to roll out, people were like, have Chick-fil-A roll out the vaccines because they know how to do all of this.
Right.
And so I do want to hear, what if that's just part of the corporate culture or
an operator came up with it, they adopted it. We call it IPOS, which is where we're out there with iPads.
Okay.
But when COVID happened, you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
We were like, what are we going to do for the weather?
Yes.
So it was called MPE, and I rented white circus tents with sides, and I bought a propane heater, and you went about it, winter gear, and you had people out there taking orders face to face. We turned on curbside. We'd never done curbside before.
Okay, that's right. I remember that.
I can remember that Monday that everything was shutting down, and we got the communication from Chick-fil-A that first it was Playlands. Oh. Playlands needed to be closed immediately.
That makes sense.
And then they came back and said, you need to shut down your dining rooms, because they had determined that we were essential being a food restaurant.
Yes.
But I mean, it could have been bad. It could have went either way. Like some of these mall guys, they shut down the malls.
Yes.
And they were, we called it being pioneers, where they had their businesses open and they had people outside malls with iPads taking orders.
Wow. Because how
setting
do you
up a drive-through at
no
a mall.
one's coming to the mall.
Right.
Ooh.
So 2020 was challenging.
Yes.
But we came out pretty successful on the other end of it. Still battling some of the supply chain issues.
Yes.
As is everybody.
As is everybody. Yeah. But I have to ask, which store is your highest performing store now?
They are neck and neck.
Are
and
they?
when I say they finished to within $40,000 of each other.
Oh, wow. That's really close.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there was one month that they finished $32
oh my gosh.
when you break down the numbers.
So
but they are
interesting.
two different businesses, and their busy periods are different. Like Pattison is extremely busy. Football season. We're typically busier in the fall when students are there. Football season.
Well, I was going to say you probably draw more of the college crowd.
We do.
On that,
we
at
do.
that location. Okay.
The University Town Center location is shopping.
Yes.
So more curbside at Pattison. Not a lot of
Okay.
curbside at University Town Center.
Yeah.
Pattison does a ton of DoorDash. University hardly does any.
That makes sense, though, because again, I think, different audience.
I went to a conference last October, yes, and they did a geofencing report to see where we were pulling our customers from.
Okay.
And I couldn't get one for University Town Center, but I got one from Pattison, and Pattison's people are coming from their houses.
Wow. Wow.
So it was just an interesting report to see. But if
Yeah.
I had to guess, university would be the shopping centers.
The
which
shopping
makes
center.
sense.
And you've got the hospital location up there. You have the Black Bear Stadium. I know I pop through there a lot on my way home
off the
because
interstate.
it's right off the interstate. So it's really convenient.
Yeah, so we're getting interstate traffic.
Yeah.
So it's just different to see, because usually when they build stores that close together, they think that you're going to lose
Yes.
a percentage of sales. And I
Yeah.
think they predicted Pattison at 15%. But then COVID hit, so you couldn't tell. I have no idea.
No.
So really, I have no idea how much university actually impacted Pattison, but I don't think that it was a lot.
Because it seems like you're drawing a different crowd.
They are.
So you have a total of what, like 150 team members? Do you call them team members?
Yes.
Team members across both of
both
those
locations, yes.
That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
How do you, and again, I think it's important for people to understand you operate pretty autonomously. Like, how much does Chick-fil-A kind of tell you what to do
They don't.
versus how you
They don't.
manage?
It's a partnership. I do whatever I want.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't affect our franchise agreement
Okay.
and our brand standards.
I was going to say, it's probably, yeah.
Yes,
As long
and
as you're
that's
not doing something
that's with probably with
going
any
against the
franchise.
Chick-fil-A brand or doing
Exactly,
something.
exactly.
You know, like I'm going to open my stores on
Right.
Sunday. I'm sure
Yes,
you're not allowed to
can't
do
do
that.
that.
You know, things like that.
I had actually one of the Cathy family members was at my location, and there was a
wow.
football game, and they had changed the Marshall game from a Saturday to Sunday, and he was there when that happened. And I said, "Well, looks like we're not feeding Marshall. It's a Sunday." He said, "Yeah, it would only happen once." I was like, "I heard you loud and clear." Yes.
Got it.
So we will never.
Got
We
it.
will never operate business.
Yeah.
Now, there have been times that Chick-fil-A has opened on Sundays during a natural disaster and fed
okay.
crowds, but we're not generating business. It's strictly donations.
It's to help. Yeah. So you're running autonomously. You've got all these people. How do you, obviously they can't all directly report to you. I mean,
No, they don't.
So how do you structure your leadership team and everything?
I have two separate leadership teams at each location.
Okay.
Very rarely do they work at different stores. Now, when Pattison was closed, everybody went from Pattison went to UTC.
Mm-hmm.
University Town Center is actually getting we're expanding the cockpit, which is what we call is the drive-through.
Cockpit.
Yes.
Ooh. We
The
got some
drive-through
insider
cockpit.
terminology
The
here. The
drive-through cockpit. And we're
Okay.
getting the door that Pattison has. So that door that opens and you can walk outside.
Yeah.
So when that happens, some of the team members from university will go work at Pattison, which is it's a nice tool to have because when I was closed for remodel, they'd have been collecting unemployment, but luckily I could send them
you
to
could
university.
kind of repurpose,
And the university got the sales at Pattison. That Pattison
picked it up.
Yeah, they picked it up. It was kind of crazy, but
That's
being able
good.
to move those team members helped a lot.
Yeah. So you've
So
got
I have two separate leadership teams. They meet amongst themselves once a week.
Okay.
We have an office house that we converted to office space. So they have a place to meet and talk about issues that are going on in the business and just get together. And then once a month, both leadership teams and myself meet.
Okay.
And we look at performance of both stores. We can compare performance.
That's cool.
Because I don't want them to be in competition, but I do.
Yes. Well, and
If
you
that
want them
makes
to
sense.
maybe learn from each other
Exactly,
too, because I think
exactly.
that's a great tool for a conversation.
Right.
About, okay, we got a real uptick this month. What's going on? Maybe what did we do differently?
Why are these scores down?
Yeah.
Why is one store down? Why is one store up? What's going on here?
Yeah.
So we just had that We just had a meeting at the end of January.
Okay.
And it's a time for us. Sometimes we don't get much accomplished just being together.
Yeah.
We had a big
That's
Christmas
important,
party
though.
there. We were developing a new training program, and it's going to be the same across both locations.
Okay.
So just so both stores are trained correctly.
Yes.
So we've spent numerous hours together, the entire executive leadership team, which is my top leaders.
Okay.
Just making this training program dummy proof, flip charts, dry erase notes all over the place.
Yeah.
And but then after that meeting in December, we had a Christmas party where we just hung out together.
That's cool.
Played games.
Yeah.
I have some of the funniest videos.
That will never be shared publicly.
That's right. That's right. They would kill me.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes it's just being together.
Yeah. And that's
and
huge.
catching up. What's going on in life?
Yes, and pulling them away from, because I bet
Outside
if you were
of the
trying
business.
to,
Right.
meet with them, talk with them.
Right.
I'm a huge believer in that too, because I think there's just so much that can be said for, and it
Right.
doesn't have to be a retreat, although I do think that is helpful to really get
It
people
is.
away.
Right.
But even if it's just, come to this location that's
Yeah,
separate.
we usually eat, and that's usually the location that if I get a text that said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I'm like, yeah. And a lot of times those conversations have nothing to do with work.
Yeah.
They just need life advice.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to meet at the store? Do you want to meet at the office? And they're like, the office. It's more private. They can relax.
Well, and
sitting
it's
on
a
couches.
house that you
Yeah.
convert into office, but it's still like
There's
it probably
couches there. You can
it's
get
comfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I love that people ask you
Yeah.
for life advice.
They
I
do,
know
they
in
do.
Personal life, there's many of us that ask you for
yes.
life advice. How would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style has changed over the years, and it's had to because the business has changed.
Yeah.
So at Meadowbrook, when I was at Meadowbrook Mall, I did everything: schedule, inventory, not necessarily run shifts, but I could stand in that doorway and see what was going on in every area of the business. Wow. I was very detailed. Like, I want all the boxes on the shelf, the labels going the same way. When you cut a box off, I want all the cardboard cut off. I mean, it was.
Were you a control freak, Lisa?
Yes. Yes, I was. A little bit, yes. Because I had to be. Because I was
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. And if I wanted to make money,
Yes.
it had to be me. I couldn't afford to pay someone to do that job.
Yes.
And then I came to Morgantown, and I tried that same leadership. Like, I'm going to run this business. And I was like, there's a parking lot out there? Someone's got to sweep that parking lot?
This is a
They
different
didn't come pick
ballgame.
up the trash? I mean, it was just so much. It was one of the hardest times in my career.
Oh,
And I quickly realized that just from the sheer sales volume aspect of it, I mean, I was doing as much in a day that I would do 2 weeks in my mall store.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of it was crazy.
You just can't.
No.
There's
And I
not
was
enough
like,
hours in the day for you to do everything
and
by
I was
yourself.
opening and working until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and getting up and doing the same thing. And I had to be at the store at 5:30 in the morning. It was just crazy. I was like, this can't go on.
No.
This will be the death of me. It can't go on.
Yeah.
And I had to start depending on people and letting them lead the business like I had taught them to lead the business and let go of the reins.
But that's hard, especially,
is.
it is still at the end of the day your business. It's your name, on the license. And what was that transition like for you?
It was different. It was really different for me. And I had a lot of conversation with the different leaders. And like, I'd walk in and someone would be right. And they're like, you're getting a snapshot of what you just saw. It doesn't mean that it's like that all day long. And I'm like, okay. Stop back.
Yeah.
Stop, Lisa. Let's look back at this. So when I walk into the restaurants, well, now I don't do anything. They take care of it all. I have a team of directors that are amazing.
That's awesome.
They know my expectations. They know the vision for the business, and they just run the run the show.
That's
if I come in and
fantastic.
have to, although they don't want me there helping out now, but if I come in and start to do something, they're like, "What are you doing?"
Oh,
Because they kind
they
of feel
take
like
ownership.
Yes, and that's
Oh.
that's what I have always expressed to them was, this isn't my business. This is our business. This is your restaurant too.
Mm-hmm.
You are the face. That's who the customer sees. You're the face of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I've let them take ownership in the business, and that's what's made it successful.
Oh, that I was going to ask about that because I was thinking, did you hire for that, or did you teach the ownership,
We've
or
taught
you
most
gave
of my.
them ownership?
I have a leader that's been with me since the day we opened. She has a sociology degree and was gonna whatever you do. I don't even know what you do with that degree, but that's what she went to school for. But she's gonna be with me forever. I have 2 directors, a set of brothers, and they're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
Those are my leadership on average has been with me. My senior leadership has been with me on average 8 to 10 years.
That's what I thought. So, and I heard you say I taught them how to lead. So, and I'd love to do a deeper dive with you. Anything you're willing to share on what that process was like?
Well, I'm not going to ask them to do anything that they wouldn't see me do. Now, back in the day, I say that all the time, and when we used to squeeze lemons, except for squeezing lemons, because I hated that job.
That does sound awful.
I would rather clean the restrooms.
Yeah. That's a lot of lemons, though. I would imagine.
It is. Now, we've streamlined that process, and Chick-fil-A actually has their own lemon squeezing facility.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt.
But that's just happened in the last couple of years. So we still had the lemons in there, and you have to rinse them and cut them and then squeeze them.
Get squirted in the eye by them.
And if you have a paper cut, you're gonna know it. Yeah, it's bad. And I'm like, I'll do anything in this business. I don't want to squeeze lemons though.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a role model for that.
Exactly.
You led by example.
And I think having the Chick-fil-A experience, is a big factor.
Yeah.
We have a lot of candidates from the outside that have no Chick-fil-A experience, and I can't imagine coming from the outside now at the volumes we're at.
Mm-hmm. That would be so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. It would be. And I can't imagine, because there's days that it's still overwhelming for me when we're doing some of these football games. Before Patterson's remodel, we were at capacity, like telling people, I'm sorry, we can't do your nugget tray at the time you want it because we can't cook. It's not the people. I don't have the equipment.
Yes. There's only so much.
There's only so much you can do in an hour, and I don't have the equipment for this. Now, since the reinvestment and the new store was built, we're building these stores to do higher volumes. But there's stores in the chain. Our highest volume restaurant did $17 million out of Texas this year.
Oh, my goodness.
There's stores in New York City that are doing $17 million in line. Like, there's no drive-through. That's all foot traffic, front counter.
Wow. That is unbelievable.
It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. And to think now, like you said, you don't need to do as much advertisement about who is Chick-fil-A. I mean, it's a very iconic brand at this point.
And like when I started, I think we were in 23 states, and now the only states that we're not in are Vermont and Alaska. So we're even in Hawaii.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's happened in the last couple of years.
So I just keep thinking about, it is a challenge. First of all, to have as many team members as you have, that can be challenging. But then again, they're separated by 2 different locations. And I'd have to imagine some of these folks are Lisa, who was 16 and her parents told her,
absolutely.
You have to go get a job. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, what kind of challenges have come up with the demographics maybe that you're hiring, or even trying to hire people?
Well,
probably is a challenge
it is.
too.
It's definitely different hiring now. Now, there's certain things that we look for, and that I've trained my interviews, because train my leaders to interview for, because I stepped out of that role a long time ago. Yeah. And my philosophy on that was, I'm not working side by side with these people.
You are.
Yeah,
right?
You are. So you need to make sure they're a fit for your team and the team here at Patterson or at university. Mm-hmm. And we've hired some rock stars, and we've hired some not so rock stars.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job, especially for a 16-year-old kid that's coming in, and it could be overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's fast paced. And I mean, I know that you do a lot to try to take care of your team members, but there are times where I'll pull up in the drive-thru, when it's minus 25 out thinking,
yeah. They're not out there when it's minus 25.
Yeah,
but yes,
I wouldn't want to be standing out here when it's raining, or I wouldn't want to be,
Exactly.
it's not the easiest.
No, it's not the easiest job out there in the kitchen. The kitchen's crazy. We're trying to eliminate some complexity, but that just hasn't happened yet because all of our chicken's hand breaded in the store.
Oh, I
don't know if you knew that. Yeah, nothing comes in. The chicken comes in.
Wow.
It's a raw filet, and it's hand breaded in the store. Nuggets are hand breaded in the store.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, everything's cooked fresh. So the job in the kitchen's crazy. It's just crazy.
And you can't see that when you're ordering from the dining room or through the drive-thru, obviously. You can't. All the chaos that's probably happening behind the scenes. Yeah. But what's so interesting is I do feel like the experience is very consistent. And even across any Chick-fil-A I go to, I feel like there is a strong brand and a strong I don't want to say personality, but it's a very consistent experience. And how do you teach that, especially with so many people, to make sure it's consistent?
It starts with the operator when Chick-fil-A, when you're selected to be a franchisee.
Okay.
I often say that I got in when it was good because I'm not sure that I could go through the interview process now because there's people out there that are interviewing to be franchisees that have went 18 months, 2 years worth of interview process. There's an application, there's a phone interview, there's a Skype, Zoom, whatever you want to call it, interview. You're invited to the corporate office.
Wow.
It's pretty
intense. And what are they looking for? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, I want to run a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, it's different. And to be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that because it's been such a long time since I went through that process.
Yeah.
My interview was, I flew to Atlanta. I interviewed with 3 people. I met the founder of our company, and I was selected in one day.
Wow.
And now they're looking at 18 months to 2 years. They have different programs that they've set up at our corporate office where these leaders can apply and they sign a contract and it's a 2-year deal and you do what they tell you.
Wow.
So they send you into these low volume malls that don't have owners and you have to run that. You could be on a
good training ground.
A grand opening team, yes. I had a guy that he didn't come out of my store. He worked for me, but he went through the leadership development program, and he went from a $7 million freestander that he was running to a Kroger unit when we were in Kroger's.
Oh, I don't think I knew you were in Kroger.
$74,000 a year.
Oh, my gosh.
And he said, I think they're trying to kill me. But he made it through, and he's a very successful franchisee
it's like
now.
A Chick-fil-A boot camp.
It is. And then there's some that come in from the outside that go through our training, and they're in restaurants.
Wow. And you told me earlier before we were recording, but how many applications do they get?
About 65,000 a year. And we're building 150 new stores. And a lot of those stores are going to franchisees that are already in the area.
Yeah. So it's pretty tough.
It's pretty challenging. Mm-hmm. They say that getting a franchisee with Chick-fil-A is harder than getting a job with the CIA.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know if there's truth to that because I've never applied for the CIA.
Yeah. Maybe you could.
I know.
You once thought you were going to be a nurse.
I know, right?
Do you ever sit there and think, I could be a nurse right now? Like,
no,
what
I
a different
don't.
path.
No, I don't. I don't know anything different. So even with my struggles at Chick-fil-A, I don't know that I ever thought about leaving.
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing anything different.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Spend your life.
Mm-hmm.
How would you define leadership for you in your own terms?
In my own terms, leadership, a coach, someone that inspires, someone that's generous, someone that provides the tools that the leaders under you need to succeed.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you talk to leaders and they're like, well, I could be doing this, but I don't have the tools. So my leadership team everybody has an American Express card. You get what you need.
Yeah.
You just need to be able to justify that expense.
I love that.
Open-minded. You got to be able to try new things. You got to be able to fail.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
Failing doesn't mean a complete failure, but you're not going to succeed on everything that you do.
Not everything's always going to work out. Yeah. And I know, again, I just keep thinking about that process of stepping back to going from being the operator who feels like she's got to do all the jobs, everything, to now having a staff of 150 people.
Right.
I mean, what are the things that you're focusing on now? What is your day-to-day like now?
I look at myself as the CEO of the business. I have a lot of direct communication with my top leaders. Text messages, meeting at the office, in the restaurant. Now I know my other team members, but day-to-day communication isn't there because I'm not in the restaurants. A lot of times, you go to the restaurant and you try to get work done, and to get 45 minutes of work done, I need to be there for 5 hours just because of of talking and building relationships. You need that for the business. Don't get me wrong. But if I want to get work done, I go to the office. And then the only person that's there is my marketing director, who's typically
fabulous.
Yeah, she's amazing. Who typically works out of the chicken house office.
The chicken house.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
The chicken house.
Yeah.
So you're able to step back and really look at the business from a strategic perspective.
On the business and not in the business anymore.
Yes, which is huge.
It is huge. It is huge. And to be able to go multi-unit, you have to be that way, because that's when they come in to do your interview, they're talking to your leaders. They're making sure that you don't play a key role in running that day-to-day operation of that business.
But having that background, I think, has been so helpful for you.
Absolutely.
Because
like,
you know
I
what it
couldn't do
takes.
our schedule right now. If I had to, I could figure it out, but it could be ugly. It would be ugly.
Yeah.
Because I've got leaders that I've trained to do those schedules, and they know what people worked. When I was at my mall store, I did the schedule. Everybody's availability was in my head. It wasn't on paper because that's what I did every day. Not now. It's a whole new ballgame.
Well, yeah, and you were talking about supply chain shortages. I know there's staffing shortages for a lot of organizations. I mean, just trying to manage the complexity of that.
And we went through the staffing shortage, but my leadership team dealt with that. They just step up. They step up and they work more hours. And you mentioned me taking care of my people. I do take care of my people, but that's one reason. That's your job.
Well, and but you, I think people know.
Yes.
When you take care of me, I'm much more inclined to want to work for you and support you and be a part of your team, as opposed to, I think that is such an undervalued aspect of leadership. Right. And if I know that you care about me, I'll run through a brick wall for you.
Exactly.
But if I don't think you care about me, you're only going to get the bare minimum probably out of me.
And I've tried to create career positions. Like, I've tried to create, like, they're very, very well from a salary perspective taken care of, but they have 401ks that I match. Their insurance is paid for.
Wow.
They're getting vacation time and sick days and anything else that I can think of. You need help, I'm there.
Yes.
And they know that.
Yes. And that takes time. Like you said,
it does.
Building that relationship takes time. But I love this. Getting to walk through the evolution of your own leadership journey. If you think back and had to give advice to Lisa starting out as an operator or any newer leader out there, what would you share?
Stay humble. And the reason I say that is because I came from a low volume mall store. I wasn't making any money. Yeah. We got new guys walking in that are walking into $8, $9, $10 million units. So they're making some money right out of the gate. And a lot of them have seen since COVID happened. Yeah. And the way the economy is, prices have skyrocketed on everything. You're paying more for talent. So as a chain, we've seen a profit shift.
Yes.
And they're hurting. I'm like, guys, you got to stay humble. It doesn't matter what size house you live in. If you're not making the money, you're not going to be living in that house.
Right. You got to figure it out.
So that's my new advice. And I've spoke to a couple guys before Morgantown Mall closed. They had a couple of interns in there that were in our leadership development program. And they're like, what advice? I'm like, stay humble. Know where you came from. I often look back. One of my role models as a leader was our founder, and I had the honor of meeting him. Wow. The most down-to-earth man you'll ever meet. And I'll get emotional talking about him because he was such an inspiration. Yeah. But he was a billionaire and lived in the same house that he owned when he founded Chick-fil-A.
Wow.
Now, granted, he added on garage after garage for for his car collection because
Sure.
he was an
He liked his
avid car collector. Yes.
But he could be as a billionaire.
Yes, yeah, right. But they never, he stayed humble.
Wow.
Just the stories hearing about him, he always made time. He went to the corporate office. I can remember I was down there for a training, and my leader's like, I want to meet Truett. I want to meet Truett. So we go up to his office. He's eating lunch. His secretary lets us in, and we're late getting back for class. And we got called out when we get in there. And I was like, we were talking to Truett. You go tell him. You tell him to be quiet because I'm listening to every word he says.
Yeah, everything.
Yes.
Wow. And that family is still, I mean, they're still very involved in the
Truett
business,
passed
right?
away. Right now, Gen 2 is operating.
Gotcha.
As far as a family business, they've hired coaches and counseling so that nothing changes. So right now it's Gen 2, and all three members of Gen 2 are still alive.
Okay.
Now, Dan had an active role, which is Truett's oldest son, and he's kind of stepped away. He's on the executive board.
Gotcha.
Bubba is still involved, and so isn't Trudy, but Dan's son just became our CEO.
Okay.
He passed the baton.
So now we're kind of on like Gen 3.
Gen 3.
Okay.
And Gen 4 is multiplying rapidly as well. And I can't remember. I just came from a business conference in San Diego.
Yeah, I want you to talk about that too.
Okay. And I think that they said that they're up to 67 Kathy member families, or the members of the Kathy family. And we were at 3 and their spouses. And then they started having kids, and their kids started having kids.
Oh my goodness.
But they start grooming these children at the age of 5, teaching them how to play together. Because one day they're going to be running this billion-dollar company. Yeah.
That is very intentional.
It is very intentional.
Wow.
They have intentional processes that they've put into place to make this, to continue on Truett's legacy.
This be successful. So talk about the conference, because you were at an annual conference for Chick-fil-A.
Every first quarter, and it used to be in February. This year it was in January. We go somewhere big. My first conference.
These are all the operators across the country?
Every franchisee and spouse. Spouses are invited.
Oh, nice.
There's vendors. Our corporate staff is there.
Okay.
My first seminar was called back then, was at the Greenbrier in White Sulphur Springs. There were 1,200 of us.
Wow.
This year we were in San Diego, and there were 9,000.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. It was intense, but they bring in some of the top speakers in the world. This year's topic, last year was pioneers, this year was culture. Talking about
so they have a theme.
There's usually a theme, yes. And they bring in speakers. And this year we listened to, she used to be the VP for Southwest HR department.
Oh, wow.
Spoke. The HR person for Mercedes-Benz North America spoke.
Wow.
We listened to Jesse Cole. And I don't know if you know Jesse.
Savannah Bananas.
Yes. He was amazing.
I bet.
I actually went to a breakout to listen to more of it. I was listening to his audiobook on the plane coming home.
That's so cool.
He was amazing and just an ordinary, down-to-earth.
Well, you talk about staying humble. I mean, his story, I think people know of him right now because Savannah Bananas are exploding in popularity and very successful. But I mean, they
didn't start out that way.
No.
He and his wife were sleeping on a twin air mattress.
Yes.
After they sold their house to make the business succeed.
Yes.
So we got to hear that story, which was amazing. We listened to a Navy SEAL, and I've heard him speak before. Bob Goff was there. I don't know if you've read him. He's amazing as well. He's a San Diego native. So it's all about whatever the topic is. They bring in speakers, and then we have breakouts that we can go to. They call the hub, and it's all the innovations, what we're looking at in the future. You can meet up with people from the support center that are on your team or in your region. I'm in the Northeast region. And it's just it's the way to kick off the new year.
That's so cool. And that's a way to support you all, because I do think when you're at the top of an organization or a department, I mean, it can be kind of lonely sometimes when it is you and there's really not necessarily somebody that understands what it's like to be you. But when you're in that type of environment, you're able to connect and collaborate with other people.
We have a president. Our president's getting ready to retire at the end of this year, which is sad, but his name's Tim Tasopoulos. And Tim knows me. He knows my husband. He knows Jacob.
Wow.
For all the members
of
the support center. If you go to Tim and you tell him something, they were calling him Mr. Rolodex.
Oh, my goodness.
Because it's just a gift that he's been given.
Wow.
He's retiring at the end of the year, which makes me sad. But that's the kind of relationships that we have at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I could go up and talk to Dan and not think anything of it.
Wow.
To see that even the top execs at our conference, or even our regional conferences that we have every October, it's pretty amazing.
Well, and something else that I think is unique that I just happened to get to experience with you, traveling with you one time, is, we got Chick-fil-A from someone.
Right.
Where were we? Parkersburg? Or I can't remember.
Yes.
But it seems like you all have pretty good relationships with each other, which is a little bit unique to me.
It is. I'm actually in the Pittsburgh DMA, which is the marketing aspect.
Okay.
And it goes with television. But I also do stuff. We've started doing stuff with the state of West Virginia. Now, we're 2 different regions.
Oh, interesting.
So Morgantown, Wheeling, the Eastern Panhandle, and the Bridgeport stores are all Northeast.
Okay.
And then the rest of the state is Atlantic region.
Huh.
But we started sponsoring any state sporting event, like the championships.
Yes.
So coming up, we just did cheerleading.
Yeah.
Where Chick-fil-A was the sponsor, and we had the cows. So we come together as owners, as marketing directors, and get together and just show them what the Chick-fil-A brand's about.
That's awesome.
In September of this past year, there were 2 events, one in Charleston, one in Fairmont. And Mark Miller, which is the VP of high performance leadership teams at Chick-fil-A, he's wrote several books.
Yeah, I follow him on LinkedIn.
Okay.
He's really cool.
Yes, he is very cool. He came in and talked to all the high schools in the state were invited, and they could bring someone from every grade level.
Wow.
And Mark addressed them and gave them copies of his book. And it was just a unique experience. We came together to do that too. And then I brought some of my leaders, because it's something other than chicken and fries. They're not running the business.
Yes.
Let's go outside and see what Chick-fil-A is about outside of.
Yes. Because you can get kind of in a vacuum.
You can. And I send my leaders, like every year, there's leadership training in Atlanta. And this year I sent 3 leaders down there, and it's a different environment. I think when you see our corporate office, which is 3 miles from the Hartsfield Atlanta airport, but it's like driving in the country to get there.
Oh, wow.
So you drive through, and there's all these ponds and walking trails, and you drive, and there's our office building at 5200 Buffington Road. But across the street is our test kitchens, and they've rented space out. It's just
so they get to experience that.
They do.
And gets them out of their element, out of their day-to-day.
And they get to talk to other team members across the country, other leaders.
So cool.
You can learn so much from other leaders. Like, I already registered and have leaders that want to go next year.
Wow, that's cool. And I just think about, because you've been, okay, so what's your years of service at this point? 20?
I have been with Chick-fil-A 33 years.
33 years, okay.
I have been an operator. March 1st will be 28 years.
So how do you stay fresh? How do you keep challenging yourself? Because I know you're very focused on keeping, growing and encouraging others, and not standing still.
Chick-fil-A provides us with a lot of different tools that we can use.
Okay.
The conference, for one.
Yeah.
You go there and you come back and you have all these great ideas.
That's awesome.
Then we meet again in October. And it just keeps you fresh.
It keeps you going.
I think sharing ideas with other owners as well. Like, one of my best friends is at Emily Drive, and we are polar opposite, but we go together like peanut butter and jelly.
I love it.
She will call me, and I talk her off the ledge. I call her with issues. I need to know what you think about this.
Yeah.
And it's the type of relationship that we say what's on our heart, and whether we want to agree with it or not, we're still friends at the end of the day.
Which
you
is
don't
so
find
cool.
that.
No, because that's why that relationship, I wanted you to talk about that, because you could very easily, a lot of people might look at that on paper and say, these would be competitors potentially.
And we're not.
And you're not. But you're better for that conversation.
Exactly.
Because
we challenge
she does
each other.
Understand what your job is like, and vice versa.
Exactly.
That is so cool.
It's a great relationship to have.
Wow. Unbelievable. I'm also need you to confirm, is it true that you have the official chicken sandwich of WVU Athletics?
It is. I am the official chicken
The
sandwich.
official chicken sandwich
of WVU Athletics.
Oh my gosh.
We entered into that agreement this year with WVU and IMG. It's a 3-year deal. So
that is so cool.
yeah, it was pretty exciting. It was pretty exciting.
Wow. So final question here.
Okay.
I'm just want to hear from you. Anything that you believed maybe earlier in your career that you think differently about? Again, going with the thoughts and tips and tools to share with other leaders potentially, but just anyone starting out in their career as well. What's something that you've learned through this 33-year journey?
Yeah, it's changed. You have to be open-minded. You have to be able to grow with the business. I've seen a lot of people fail that they're still running their business like it was 50 years ago, and you can't do that.
No.
So you've got to be able to, like I said, grow with your business and learn new things. If you can't learn new things, you're setting yourself up for failure.
That is so
Try
huge.
new ideas.
Yes.
Because what worked 50 years ago is not going to work.
No.
Or what even 30 years ago when I started is not going to work.
We're even pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly.
I'm going into a lot of organizations right now where I can see leaders struggling because all of the usual things of that's the way we've always done it for the past 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, however long, it's not working.
It's not going to work.
And
that's right.
Everything has changed, and we have to continue to change too and evolve and be open-minded and try new things. So I'm really glad that you said that because I'm seeing it.
Yes. Yeah.
Amongst a lot of leaders and organizations right now.
And I don't see it ever going back. And it's crazy to think. I never thought in my lifetime I'd see a pandemic, and it happened. You're like, wow. And you just got to be able to adapt and change.
Yeah, that's so true. I love how, as you were sharing your story, there's so many elements of you just being willing to try it.
Yeah, just go. I mean, just go for it. What do you got to lose?
Right.
And it goes back. I'm telling you, it goes back to our founder. And just an amazing, down-to-earth, humble man who had the most generous heart. And if you have a chance, you should read some of his books.
Oh, that's good. Truett Cathy. Okay, that's that's.
And if you need copies, I have them.
Ooh,
some of them you can't find.
Ooh, okay, good to know.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. But yeah, I think there's so many people that I know who are afraid to try. And so I think you're such a good inspiration for those people of look what can happen. I mean, you could have easily said, nope. Yeah, I'm going to school for nursing.
That's
I'm
right.
going to be a nurse. And this is just my part-time job so I can make my car payment.
Exactly.
And you just
tried. Or I could have went to nursing school and said, hey, you can have this back. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
And never even crossed my mind.
Oh, I love that. Okay. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. Anything that we haven't covered?
No.
It's our pleasure.
It's my pleasure, Laura.
How many times do people joke with you about that?
It took me forever to Truett asked us that one year at our conference, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I was skeptical, as were a lot of people. And I left Bridgeport and I was coming to Morgantown, and I said, I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to start using this. And now it's just natural. Your welcome is not natural for me.
Yeah.
My pleasure is natural. Like I hold the door for someone. It's my pleasure.
I was somewhere, I want to say I was maybe staying at a hotel or something, and I said thank you to someone, and they said it was my pleasure, and I was like,
yes.
Did you steal that from Chick-fil-A?
Actually, I'm not sure we didn't steal it from someone because, like, excuse me, we've done the Ritz-Carlton experience which was it's pretty cool to do. How you go to the front counter and the person all the way through the lobby knows your name and they're greeting you, and which is really cool. But we've put a lot of effort into finding people as the competition is doing with us.
Yes.
Ways to improve.
Well, and I told you that was my final question, and I lied because you just made me think of something. I'm always so intrigued by companies that do such a good job with customer experience, creating a specific customer experience and understanding the importance of creating a positive customer experience. And there's such a translation, I think, into employee experience. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well in terms of how do you apply the principles of creating a unique and positive customer experience to people who work in your organization, because it's very important regardless of what kind of organization you're
Right.
working in, to
Well,
have a positive
it starts
employee
with me.
experience.
They've got to have a positive experience with me
Mhm.
and know, I mean, I'm going to treat you the way I want you to treat my customer.
Yeah.
Truett had a saying that treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And I try to live that.
Mhm.
Try to take care of my people, make sure that they know I care, because if they know I care,
Mhm.
then they're going to care.
How do you, I know this sounds like a really tactical question, but how do you show them that you do care about them? Because I do think people struggle with this. That's why I'm asking.
They do. I'm and I don't like to talk about myself, you know that, but I'm very generous.
Yes,
and
you are
if
very generous.
I had actually had a leader tell me I was stupidly generous, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? But we do team outings. We get together. I have a phenomenal Christmas party.
Yes.
And get to interact with these team members that now that I'm so big, that I necessarily don't get to see on a day-to-day basis with their schedules, with my schedules. If I'm in the restaurant for 2 hours and it wasn't the 2 hours that they were there, and especially having two restaurants.
Yes.
It was harder or easier when it was just Pattison, because I would see a lot of those. But now having two restaurants, it's been a challenging. That's probably one of the most challenging things for me, is just keep staying connected.
Yes, absolutely.
With people other than my leaders.
Right. And because you can't have one-on-one meetings with 150 people. I mean,
it would take me half a year.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do know that you also make time for people.
Right.
And I think that's another mechanism for you to show that you
And
care about someone.
My leaders can contact me by my cell phone. I have a leader that texts me daily, and it's just for words of encouragement. And our saying is, I love you big.
Aww.
And that's usually how we end our conversations.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, I have different connections with different leaders in the business, but they know my heart, I know their heart, and we know how to communicate with each other.
Yeah. I love you, big Lisa. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yes.
All right. Anything we've left on the table that we didn't get to talk about that you wanted
I'm aware
to cover?
of. I don't have a list of questions.
Not that you wanted to be on the show anyway,
it's okay.
but
it's okay. We did okay.
We did. Yeah. Yes, more than okay. All right. I do a lightning round. Can we finish with a lightning round?
Yes,
60 seconds.
Absolutely.
To answer as many. It would be your pleasure, wouldn't it?
It is my pleasure.
Okay. 60 seconds to answer as many open-ended questions as you can.
Okay.
I know you're a little competitive, so on your mark, get set, go. What season best fits your personality?
Summer.
I love it. What's your most used emoji in text?
Depends on who it is. If it's Carrie Aberzino, she knows it. That's a little inside joke, Laura.
Inside joke between us. All right. What book, song, movie, or podcast has had the greatest impact on your life?
Right now, I'm listening to Jesse Cole and his Fans First, and it's a pretty good book.
Okay, I'm going to check it out. What's something about you that surprises people when they first hear it?
How young I was when I got my first Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that's so cool. Fill in the blank. I spend too much money on other people.
Yeah. This is true. That is true. Other people, you're correct.
Yeah.
But my son, man.
I know. Who knew boys would be so expensive?
I know.
Gosh.
Baseball. I spent too much money on baseball.
Same. What celebrity would you want to play you in a movie?
Ooh. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of who I would maybe answer for you. Not that this is my lightning round, but given that I do know you.
Yeah, I
I
don't
feel
know.
like Cassandra Bullock would
That's
be
exactly
good...
who was coming to mind, and I think of Blindside, because that's one of my favorite movies, and I get told a lot.
Yes,
I am like Lee and I get told that all the time. I don't know that I see it, but yes,
I definitely see that. Big heart, cared a lot. Fancy. You're a little fancy too,
at
Lisa.
times.
Yeah.
Well, you don't come to my house when I'm not fancy. Every time you see me, it's in a business.
True.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway,
my mama taught me how to look nice in public.
I love it. Thank you again so much for doing this.
It's my pleasure.
This has been awesome. And I know you don't like the spotlight, but I think you're so much worth knowing about, and I really wanted people to get to hear your story, so I appreciate it.
Well, it was an honor to be here, and it was a lot easier than I anticipated it would
not
be.
that bad.
No,
not that bad.
No, just a conversation. It's good.
Just a conversation. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining, and until next time, shine bright, everyone.